Okay, take two. I'm going to show what I'm going to do for borders on this. And sorry if the cats interrupt. They're determined to try to lay on this. I'm going to go back over what I've already talked about. Hopefully the sound is a little better on this one. I have attached all of the stems and the flowers. I'm still working on adding additional leaves. I do plan to add beads and sequins and that kind of thing to this. And then I'm going to layer this up to make a little quilt out of it. So it'll have the top, and it'll have batting and it'll have backing. And then I'm going to quilt only on the green spaces with my sewing machine, and I'll use my walking foot for that, so that the layers all feed evenly. I guess I could quilt it by hand since the rest of this has been done by hand. We'll cross that road when I get to it. I have been embroidering everybody's names along the stem. So this is Joyce B, Becky, Janet Nash. And the reason there's an extra one for Janet Nash now is because I just made a yo-yo flower with the fabric that Janet had sent with her flower. So those are Janet Nash. This is Ginger Pam. This is Kathy Whitney. And this is Beth's and Ann's and Joyce's second one. So I do plan to zhuzh up some of the flowers. Like I want to add some beads to the center of mine. I might put something along the edge on this one I made out of the yo-yo, because right now it's only held on by the thread that I sewed the button to the middle. So I might put a little something along the edge there. And I definitely want to add some kind of sequins or something to Beth's just to bling it up. Since there's bling on this side, I kind of want to balance my piece. But I am going to put everybody's names. That's why you see the little pink papers on here. This is to remind me of whose name needs to go where. So like Ann's needs to go on this stem up to her flower, and Beth's needs to be on this stem, and I need to put another one for Joyce up here, and then Kathy. And then I'll have, oh, and Pam's, Ginger Pam. I'll put Ginger Pam, in fact, because we have so many Pams in our group that I want to make sure I remember that it's Ginger Pam. And that, all of the stitching for the name, I just do that with back stitch, and I just kind of eyeball it as I go. I was going to try to write it with a white chalk pencil, but on this particular fabric, it didn't show at all. So I said, well, I guess I'm freehanding all of this. Now over at Ann's, everybody was talking about what are you going to do for your border, or how are you going to handle the edge, and all of that. And I want this to be like an actual quilt for me. So I'm going to add borders. So for my first border, and I don't know if this is going to be long enough or not, but I cut some 1.5 inch strips of something that reads solid but doesn't have to be solid. So I've got black with this tiny dot, and see how it reads a solid color. And what I'm going to do is I'll put a strip up here. And when I sew this tip, you gotta go. When I put this strip on, it will be the same length this way. Okay, so I'll put them right sides together, and I'll snip this off so it's even with there. And then I'm going to do a 1/4 inch seam. So when I'm done, this will only be 1 inch wide, because it's 1.5 inches now. But by the time you take 2 1/4 inch seams out, the finished border will be just 1 inch. But then this will fold back, and this will be like a narrow piece. I'm going to do that first. You know, this folds back. So this will be here like this. This would stop there. And then I'll put one just like it at the bottom, which I don't think I can show the whole thing, but I have another strip here. And this one will go at the bottom, down at the bottom. So then I'm going to turn it this way just so you guys can see. So this border will be sewn on and the edges will be even with this edge. Okay. So I'm just going to overlap this a little bit. And then this one will have one on this one. And the pieces that are at the top and the bottom will be even with this. Now these other pieces, you've got to have a strip long enough to go from the edge of the border you just put on to the edge of the other border. So when you put them right sides together, these will be opened up and pressed nice and flat with the seam toward the border. And then this piece will go face down, but these pieces have to go from the edge of what you've already sewn down to the edge of what you've already sewn down. So I'd have to cut this right here. Then that would fold back. And see, that creates a completely boxed in project in the middle. It creates a frame, if you would. I may end up cutting some off the bottom of mine just to make it a little narrower. So I don't have all this green down here. I gotta see how I feel about it when I get there. My grass does kind of go at an angle. So that's something to think about. But I might trim some off the edge. All right. So I'll do that on all four sides. And then my plan was to create another border that's a pieced border that's like a garden fence. And I'll show you that here just a minute. So this could go here. In fact, if I trim this so that I could put this strip across right at the base of the grass, it would cut some of my grass because I'd have to square this off. I might do that and just have this go over the bottom of my grass. I'll play that by ear. Now, this is really complicated, and I don't expect anybody else wanting to do this because it's a real head scratcher and there's a whole lot of math involved, but I want to show what I'm planning to do for myself. If you guys want to just do just plain borders like this, you could do this black, and then you could do another like a 2.5 strip beyond this. And see, each time you add a border, you're making it bigger. So the size is entirely up to you, okay? But this is my plan. So after I put the black border on, I'm going to measure everything. And I got to figure out my math because this is what I want to do. This is a border that I did on a round robin that came across my sewing table several years ago. And it is all half square, half rectangles. I mean, half squares, half triangle, half squares. You know, it's a square made up of 2 triangles. But you have to have so many that are green and white, and you have to have some that are whatever your solid color that reads solid in the middle. You have so many that are of this outer piece, the green, to go with the gold, and you have to have so many that are green to go with the white, and then you have to have a solid square in the corner. So you got to figure out how many of these you need here. So there's a round there, and then this round here. So everywhere that it looks like a square, I'm going to bring you down close. All right, let's get a highlighter and I'll show you what I mean. So that doesn't show. That highlighter's seen better days. These are all squares across here. That's a square, 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 and so on all the way around. So you have to have, you do these half triangle squares, half square triangles, or whatever. I can't remember the exact name, but these are made by taking two squares, and I can't tell you what size because it depends on the size of my piece I'm adding it to, and then I have to do the math. So you put two squares together, and they have to be larger than what you need because you're going to draw a line diagonally and sew 1/4 of an inch from each side of the line and then cut it in half. And what I do is I just make a bunch of them that are way too big, and then I take the time and I fussy cut with my rotary cutter and my rulers to get a perfect halved square on the diagonal. And it depends on how you lay these down. And what always messes me up is these corners, because this is pretty easy if you have a picture like this to look at, to know which way the gold has to go. Because you can see this on this square right here, it goes up here. But on the next square next to it, it has to go in the opposite direction. And then the next one, it's back and forth, back and forth. So it is a complex border, but look how pretty it is. So if you feel like it's worth the effort and would like to do this, you have to come to Craft and Chat on Thursday or Friday, because that's just something to help you with. It would be easier if we were together. Does that make sense? So you guys that are doing this, if you want to know how to do this, you have to be in Craft and Chat. I am not going to attempt this. I'm sure there's other quilting channels that have this particular border. Do you know where I found this? I found this on Pinterest. I printed the picture off and I did my own math. So I basically reverse engineered the whole project. I did not have anybody's tutorial to follow. I just saw a picture. And that's something that aggravates Scott on Pinterest, is he can't just follow a link and have it lead him somewhere. For me, all I need is this picture. I can figure everything out from the picture. I don't need the tutorial all the time. So, hey, Deb. But this was a round robin, and somebody else had done the center, and then I added this border. And I don't know what the quilt looked like, because the only pictures I have are the ones that I took of round robins that as they crossed my table. So this was my addition to it. I don't know. I'm going to check one thing, and I need to put the dog back out. You want to go back outside? Let's go back outside then. All right, come on, out the door. No, 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 not that door, this door. I don't know why she has to make so much more noise after she eats, but she does. Let me see if I can find the picture of. I hate that they moved the groups. So it's so hard to find anything. I've shared some of the round robins that I used to work on a regular basis when my quilt group was a lot more active in the past. We've been losing members over the years, so it's a very small group. I was going to look and see if there was a picture shared of this quilt once it got back home. I wish there was a way for me to share the pictures on my screen. Okay, I don't have that one. as a finished share. I can show you some other ones. I did this border on this quilt, the real busy border on here. There. I did that one. That one was a head scratcher too, to get everything the way I wanted it to go. This was somebody else's working on. There's that one. I designed that square myself with the cat. It's hard to see. Oops, I don't know where it went. So doing borders on things is a lot of fun for me. I really enjoy doing them. I'll show you another one that I really enjoyed working on. It was for Barb Fillion. This one I did this pink and green and cream border. I wish it wasn't so blooming dark. But that was a fun one to do. The last border that you see in the picture, I think I added the solid green and then I did this pieced border. So I added a bunch to that girl's quilt. That one I decided it was so busy in the middle when I got it. I just added a real kind of calming place for the eye to rest. I think that was after it had gotten back home. This was Barb's. Nope. Where's Barb's? Go back small so I can look for it. Oh yeah, here we go. This is the that was her elephant center, and everybody else had added a bunch. So I put the colorful printed batik border on it here. And I just think that one turned out really pretty. I'm just sharing border ideas for you guys. Did this one when we were up at the little house. And, you know, some of the other girls have shared some things. That was one I was working on. So